Hello everyone and welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. Today I've got this really lovely card using the Thoughts and Prayers stamp set from Stamping Up. It comes in 2 CD cases, it's a double one, and it has a lot of sentiments for get well or a sympathy card, and I just find it's a very versatile stamp set. So that's the stamp set that we're using today. So on this particular card here, I've used this flower here, but today I'm going to use the tree just to see how that turns out. But also I've used a technique to do the background, which is called Faux Technique, F-A-U-X, and you've most probably seen heaps of people do it. You need to use like very vanilla cardstock, say from Stamping Up. I'm talking about Stamping Up cardstock at the moment. So a very vanilla or Whisper White or something like that. But what I've found is another product I use, which isn't Stamping Up, with my watercolouring, I use Strathmore Bristol Smooth. And this particular one, you get 20 sheets in the pad, and it measures 9 inches by 12 inches or 22.9 by 30.5 centimetres, and it's 100 pounds or 270 GSM, and it's smooth. It's a very good watercolour paper. But why I'm showing it to you with this card, even though I'm not doing watercolouring, is that because it's so smooth, I find that I use it when I'm doing this technique because it just seems to leave such a seamless, smooth effect when you're doing your sponging with your dauber. And it's not a quick card. You need to take your time when you're doing the sponging. I've seen some people do it quite fast for a tutorial, but I'm not going to be doing the whole front. I've already pre-done one for the card today, but I am going to show you how to make the template and that you need to use, and how I did achieve that technique with the dauber. So we'll just pop that card aside. So to start with, I'm bringing in my Simply scoreboard. And even though the diagonal plate is discontinued, I still have mine and I will never get rid of it. So you need your scoreboard, you need to be able to score diagonally. Now with the Stamping Up one, if you still have it, you've got that arrow there at the top. It needs to be at the top of your scoreboard when you're scoring. So we'll just turn that over. And you've got to make sure that it's right up in that corner. It's very important that it's right up in that corner. So I'll grab my tool that comes with the Stamping Simply scored board. So this piece of Whisper White, I'm just doing this as a template just to show you quickly how I do it. And that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. So you've got to put that right up in that corner there. Now you're going to take the larger, you've got a small little knob on one end and a large knob on the other end. I would suggest you use the large one. And to find where the score line is, because we're going diagonally, to find that, when I get right up into the corner there, I just sort of wiggle my tool there to find the line, and then you're going to score from right up in that corner just straight down like that, and then you're going to score at 2 inches down like that. And then you're going to score on the side here at 2 inches and at 4 inches. And then you're going to turn it and buff it right up into that corner. So we're scoring on the long side now, and just the same, we're going to do it right up in that corner and down, and then we're going to do it on the 2-inch mark and on the 4-inch mark, and then also just on this 2-inch side, like that. And that's all the scoring that you need to do. Okay, so then you end up, you can just see, I think, all those score lines, and that will give you your diamond shapes. Now I'm going to be using this piece, so I'll just put a bit of grid paper there. Now I've already cut this one. This is the one I've used. Now this is, as I said, you need 2 of these. So one's going to go on the front of your card, and one we're going to cut for a template. Okay, so this one is exactly the same, it's just I've used it, that's why you can see that. So you're just going to cut, doesn't matter whereabouts you cut, but you want this sort of template left to use. Okay, so then you can use even this little piece left, you can use. So what you're going to do is this valley, well, I'll call it a fold, it's not really a fold, but the valley there, and this is the mountain. So the valley, you need to line it up with the diamonds there, so that you won't be able to see the score lines. But I'm just going to take a bit of Sahara sand, and I'm just going to show you quickly just a couple. So I'm lining that up. This is my template, and I'm just lining that up like so. And I'm just going to take my dab it into my Sahara sand, and I'm just going to start very lightly, and then once you've got nearly all the ink off, you're just going to go up the sides. But it does work, it does come out a lot nicer if you do it on that watercolor paper. I find doing it on the, as I'm doing it on the Whisper White, it doesn't give you that seamless, smooth look as nicely as it does on the watercolor paper. So you can see that. So then you just move across to the next one. As I say, I'm just going to do a couple so you can see. So you want it darker right down in this point, and then you're just going to go up the side. I've seen people do it very quickly, but I spend quite a lot of time when I do this technique for a card, because, and you can always lift it off and just see whether you need a bit more on there. But it's a very effective technique. So then I'll just do one more. I'll do this one down here. And we'll just do it right down there, and then we're just going to go up the sides. And as I say, this is on Whisper White. I mean, you might be quite happy with the effect, but I do prefer to do it on that watercolor paper. But you must make sure you get the smooth, and I have used Archer's watercolor paper, but the Bristol is just so lovely and smooth. But you can just keep applying as little or as much as you like. Just experiment. What I will say is I found that when I tried using colours like Wisteria Wonder and it didn't come out as nicely as using the neutral colours. And you can add a lot more ink, but I like to leave a little bit of white in there. So that's why you need that template, and that's how you do it. And you would just keep continuing to do over the whole card, and you can see it really does, it's quite effective technique. So you can see how it would turn out. So we'll pop the Sahara sand away. It would just take too long for me to show you the whole card doing it like that. The video would go too long. So that is what I've done, and that is on the watercolor paper, and I've already put the sentiment on there. So I'll just show you the difference. This is done on Whisper White and this is on the watercolor paper, so you can see the difference. That to me it's a lot more of a smooth look on there than on this one. Okay, so that's how it looks when you've done the whole thing and it's finished. So then I'm just going to grab my Misty tool and I'm going to stamp inside the card first. I'm just going to stamp the tree. I must have accidentally popped that away, so we'll just make sure that's the right size. It's exactly the same size as the front, so that's 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm just going to pop that up on so it's straight on my line, and using my Misty corner just so it won't move. And I've just got one extra magnet that I popped there, so I can move that around. So I want to put the tree, just one tree inside. Then just press it down. And then I'm going to take Early Espresso, using these light colours to sponge on the front. I've found Early Espresso is the perfect match to complement the sponging. So I may have to do this twice. So you can see I've missed a little bit in the middle. That's the good thing about the Misty tool, is that you can re-ink it, and it's going to go exactly in the same spot. And if you get a little bit of ink on your stamp, just get a little cotton bud and just remove that so it doesn't transfer to your card. So there, so that's, I'm really happy with that. So that's, we're going to pop that inside our card. So we'll just pop it up there to dry. Then we're simply going to take this piece, just wipe marks off of the Misty tool, give it a bit of a dry. So this is well and truly dry now, so I'm going to just see where I want it, because I know that tree is straight. So I might pop it on that line there. And you can just do a single tree, or you can do, we'll have a look, I'll just see how it looks. So position it. I'll just bring it down one. But you could use this technique for a lot of different cards. So just pop that there. So then I'm just going to ink up that flower, or tree I should say. And I'm just going to have that there. So just give it another re-ink. So you could do this with any image, this Faux Technique. So just remove a little bit of that ink that I can see is just on the edge of the stamp. And in my next video I'm going to show you a different card using this same stamp set. I do like to show you 2 or 3 ways you can use a stamp set, so you're not just seeing it used in one way. But this can be, you can do this in so many different, you know, happy birthday or anything. It doesn't have to be a sympathy card. It was developed by Stampin' Up for a sympathy card, but I find you can use it in so many different ways. And using this technique, you can use whatever stamps you've got available. Don't think that you've got to use just because I've used it in the video. It's just to give you an idea. So you could leave that like that, but you could leave that like that, or you could even stamp down underneath here, which I have done before. I just clean that off with my Lawn Fawn chamois. It's the best tool that I've ever. And if you wanted to, you could even put like, so it's just stamping off the edge. So I'm just going to put a scrap piece of paper under there. Straighten that back up. So just so it looks a bit different, you could stamp that So this is like the sort of stamping I did with the other image. So I stamped it in different places and I just stamped it off the edge of the card a little bit. I think it just gives it that really nice effect. Slide those off, and I just think it gives it a really nice effect. You could even do a little stamping up there or even in that little thing down there. So what I did with the original one, I stamped it first here and then I stamped it again there, and then a little bit there. I just stamped off the page. So it just makes it look a bit more unique. So you could stamp it there and there if you wanted to, but I think it looks nice like that. So we're just going to leave that there. So just, I like to clean the stamps as we go. So we'll just remove the Misty out of the way and everything else. And then we're going to bring in our card. Now I've got a piece of Sahara sand, just gives this a little bit of time to dry. So I've got a piece of Sahara sand and it measures 11 inches. It's a little bit of it. So it's 11 inches by 4 1/4 and scored at 5 1/2. I had a memory blank then for a little minute. So as before, we stamped that on there. We're going to just use some snail, and I might just grab my trusty grid paper just to protect it. And just when you're using this snail, you just have to be pretty precise when you're putting it down. Just make sure it isn't crooked, because it's very hard to lift it up once you've fully put it down. So we're just going to pop that inside the card, all ready for someone to write their message in there. So I just run my finger along the sides, gives it a bit of a rub, and then that's your inside of your card done. So on the outside piece, which is this piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use multi-purpose liquid glue, so that if I don't get it completely straight, it's going to give me a couple of minutes to move it, which has happened before. So I just like to get in the middle first, just in case I get any big blobs coming out. So just try and go as close to the edge as you can, and then just be really careful when you're popping it down. You want to try and get it as straight as possible, and just make sure before you start pressing down, because you can move it a little bit. And then we're just going to slide our finger along the edges. And normally what I do, well, like with this one, I turn it over and I do that, give it a bit of a rub so it really does glue down. But I'm not going to do that because I've only just stamped those trees, and I do like to give them a little bit of time to dry. So that's the card for today. So I hope that you do try this technique. It is a great technique. So this one here is on the early espresso and I've sponged in crumb cake, and this one is on the Sahara sand and I've sponged in Sahara sand. But just remember what I say about using that Bristol smooth watercolor paper, because they do tend to come out a lot smoother, and I do like the effect. So I hope you will give that a try, and until next time, happy crafting.